Love in Tudor times was rarely simple. For some, it led to power and triumph, while for others, it ended in scandal, imprisonment, and even death. Marriages were often political, but that didn't stop people from falling in love, and sometimes recklessly. Today, I'm exploring some fascinating Tudor love stories, from secret marriages and forbidden romances to deep devotion and tragic endings. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Which is your favourite Tudor love story? Let me know in the comments and take part in my poll on my YouTube channel's community tab. Couple 1. Mary Boleyn and William Stafford. Mary Boleyn, sister of Anne Boleyn, was once Henry VIII's mistress, but when she married for love, it caused an absolute scandal. After the death of her first husband, William Carey, Mary secretly married William Stafford, a soldier with no title or wealth. This defied every expectation for a woman of her status, and in 1534 she was banished from court and cut off financially. In a heartfelt letter to Thomas Cromwell, Mary defended her decision, writing, "He was young and love overcame reason, and for my part I saw so much honesty in him that I loved him as well as he did me, and was in bondage and glad I was to be at liberty." She even declared that she would rather beg for bread with him than be the greatest queen in Christendom. Mary and Stafford lived a quiet life away from court, staying together until her death in 1543. Couple number 2, Elizabeth I and Robert Dudley. Elizabeth I famously never married, but if she had been able to marry for love, then it almost certainly would have been Robert Dudley. The two had known each other since childhood, and when Elizabeth became queen, Dudley was always by her side. But there was one problem: he already had a wife. When Amy Robsart, Dudley's wife, was found dead in suspicious circumstances in 1560, people immediately whispered that Dudley had arranged her murder so that he could marry Elizabeth. The scandal destroyed any chance they had of becoming husband and wife, but Dudley remained Elizabeth's closest companion for the rest of his life. She called him Sweet Robin, and when he died in 1588, she was heartbroken. His last letter was found in her belongings after her own death. Their story is one of passion, loyalty and tragedy, of what might have been. Couple number 3, Frances Knowles and Katherine Gray. Katherine Gray, daughter of Mary Boleyn, married Sir Francis Knowles when she was about 16. We don't know if it was a love match from the start, but it certainly grew into one. The couple had at least 16 children together and remained deeply devoted. In 1568, Catherine became ill, and when Queen Elizabeth refused to let Francis leave court to be with her, he was furious. Sadly, Catherine died in January 1569, and Francis was described as distracted with sorrow for his great loss. A rare example of true love and loyalty in the Tudor world. Couple number 4, Katherine Gray and Edward Seymour. Katherine Gray, sister of Lady Jane Grey, risked everything for love. As a Tudor royal with a claim to the throne, Catherine needed the Queen's permission to marry, but she didn't ask. Instead, she secretly married Edward Seymour, Earl of Hertford, in late 1560. When Queen Elizabeth found out, she was furious. Catherine was thrown into the Tower of London, where she gave birth to their first son, Edward. Later, she even conceived again while imprisoned, managing secret meetings with her husband. Although Catherine was eventually released, she never saw Edward again and died under house arrest less than 8 years after her marriage. A love that defied the Queen, but at a devastating cost. Couple number 5, Mary Grey and Thomas Keyes. Katherine Gray's younger sister Mary also married for love and also paid the price. In 1565, she secretly married Thomas Keyes, Queen Elizabeth I's sergeant porter. But he was of far too low rank for a Tudor noblewoman, and when the Queen found out, she separated them immediately. Thomas was thrown into prison while Mary was placed under house arrest. They never saw each other again. Thomas died in 1571 and Mary lived alone until her death in 1578. Couple number 6, William Cecil and Mildred Cooke. William Cecil, Elizabeth I's chief advisor, married Mildred Cooke in 1545. We don't know if it was a love match, but over their 42-year marriage it certainly became one. When Mildred died in 1589, Cecil described her as dearest above all and said their marriage had been without any unkindness. In a time of political marriages, their bond was one of deep mutual respect and love. Couple number 7, Elizabeth Throckmorton and Sir Walter Raleigh. The famous explorer Sir Walter Raleigh secretly married Elizabeth or Bess Throckmorton, one of Elizabeth I's ladies-in-waiting. When the Queen found out, she was furious and threw Raleigh into the Tower of London and dismissed Bess from court. Despite the scandal, their marriage lasted. When Raleigh was executed in 1618, Bess kept his embalmed head with her until her own death in 1647. Now that's devotion. Couple number 8, well, actually it's not really a couple, it's Lady Margaret Douglas. A heartbreak twice over. Margaret Douglas, niece of Henry VIII, had 2 great love affairs and both ended in disaster. First, in 1535, she secretly got engaged to Lord Thomas Howard without the King's permission. Henry VIII was furious and threw them both in the Tower, and Thomas later died there. Then, in 1540, she fell in love again with Sir Charles Howard, but once again, the romance was broken up by the King. Finally, in 1544, she married Matthew Stuart, Earl of Lennox, a match that brought both love and political advantage. Couple number 9, Mary Tudor, Queen of France, and Charles Brandon. Mary Tudor, Henry VIII's sister, was forced into marriage with the much older King Louis XII of France, but she'd already given her heart to Charles Brandon, Duke of Suffolk. After Louis's death in 1515, she married Brandon in secret, enraging Henry VIII. He eventually forgave them, and they remained together until Mary's death in 1533. One of the few Tudor love stories with a happy ending. Couple number 10, Katherine Willoughby and Richard Bertie. As a wealthy widow, Katherine Willoughby had the rare chance to marry for love. She chose Richard Bertie, her gentleman usher. Despite challenges, including exile due to their Protestant faith, they stayed together and raised 2 children. A marriage based on love, loyalty and shared beliefs. Where are Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII on this list, I hear you ask? After all, aren't they the love story that changed history? Well, can we really call that a love story? Henry may have been obsessed with Anne, but when she failed to give him a son, he had her executed on false charges, leaving their daughter, the 2-year-old Elizabeth, motherless. That's not love. It's power, control and betrayal, don't you think? Love in the Tudor era was rarely a simple fairy tale. Some found happiness, but many paid a terrible price for following their hearts. But which Tudor couple do you think had the greatest love story? You can vote in my poll and also let me know in the comments. And if you love uncovering the passion, scandal and drama of Tudor history, don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more. Oh, and by the way, the poll is in the community tab of the YouTube channel. Happy Valentine's Day!